Hello, yeah, I'm here to talk about Gen AI and how we've incorporated into our products at Edgescan. And yeah, anybody paying attention, both the title and the summary that we provided was Gen AI created. A little bit about myself first. It's great to be back in Manchester. I'm an alumnus of University of Manchester. I did my post-grad here 25 years ago, and like what a time it was for this club. I recall they won the league, and then Giggsy scored a famous goal. They won the FA Cup, and then they went on and they won the Solskjaer there, toe poked a brilliant goal to win the Champions League. So I got to celebrate a great treble, also while being a Liverpool fan. So yeah, a bit of PTSD in the hotel there yesterday with all the memorabilia. So my role, I'm Chief Technology Officer in Edgescan. So coming up on 3 years, hunting vulnerabilities. So a relative novice in the cybersecurity area, but about 25 years, I suppose the other side of it, injecting vulnerabilities and trying your best to keep them out in software development, product development, all of that kind of thing. Quick note on Edgescan, who are we, what do we do? Well, we're in the continuous threat exposure management area now. What does that mean? We find vulnerabilities. We find them everywhere. We find them in your web layer, your network layer, your APIs, microservices, your mobile, your development pipelines. We have CI/CD integration. And then we also even have a significant manual cybersecurity team that do deep pen testing and also provide validation. So our main key areas, the results that you get, false positives are eliminated. It's a real view of your security posture. Yeah, please don't critique this graph. I did try and get ChatGPT to do it for me, but 4 prompts later, it just said, draw it yourself. So yeah, and it's not very good, but what it's trying to capture is my own Gartner hype curve of artificial intelligence. I recall the first time I noticed, so to me artificial intelligence is where humans step back from the computer and it conducts itself. So 1997 was the first time that a computer took on Garry Kasparov in chess and beat it without human intervention. So that was kind of a seminal moment. I was in IBM when IBM Watson was more general, and I think its marketing thing was that it beat the best practitioner at Jeopardy. But again, that was a step up. It wasn't attached to the internet. It had its learnings. It used them. The next big one was the Google DeepMind, and the reason behind that was how they achieved it. The AI basically played against itself recursively, so that it got to a point where it was able to step in and beat the foremost Go experts on the planet quite easily, and it defined all new strategies and everything. So that was kind of the first line of AI teaching AI. And then 2 years ago, the ChatGPT explosion happened, and there was a lot of hype around that and a lot of value in that. But it dips again, but I think it's on the rise, and we're really starting to see some of the applications that come out of that. So obviously, in my role, the CEO comes to me at a certain point and says, how do we use this technology? So the first thing was to identify our unique challenges. So in our space, data security is paramount. We can't have any scenario where a client's data leaks into a ChatGPT or anything like that. And the results integrity, what I spoke about there, our key value prop is our results. We can't have any situation where the results that come out of a tool are less than the effort that we put into making them so good. So our approach was start small, internal data, internal features, keep it very safe. So an example was really very simple. It was just a prompt template that our sales engineers could inject information about new potential clients, and it would give them back a licensing profile, that kind of thing. It was all very safe, very secure, and we got to learn from it. So that then was the first steps into what we now have, which is Edgescan AI Insights. So what's Insights? It's basically a client's vulnerability posture, their security posture, I suppose, defined by their vulnerabilities. So we take the organization's vulnerability data and we put it into a GPT, and we ask these 4 specific questions. Given this vulnerability posture, how susceptible am I to ransomware? We also get feedback on remediation priority. Everybody's got a list of vulnerabilities. Already we have a deterministic view of that, where we give scoring based on CVSS, EPSS, CISA, KEV, and even a weighting factor from our own annual report on vulnerabilities. This, however, will give you a probabilistic view on the same data, and it's far more consumable, and look, it's just a different view. Other things then, the other questions we have at the moment are compliance, HIPAA or PCI, how might they be affected by this? And training. So my organization, we found all these vulnerabilities. How should I be training my engineers to stop these types of vulnerabilities getting through? There's a link there to a nice blog my colleague wrote on that, and there are a few more questions and stuff there as well. So this is just a little view of what it looks like when it comes back. So it comes back in paragraph format. You've links to your assets, you've links to your CVEs, and you know, it's quite consumable. In terms of the remediation priority there, you can see again all the data is linked. The demo data isn't great because we normally do this live. You know, it's far more effective. And that's where it's interesting to see that our EXF scoring, it isn't exactly numerical when it comes back. It isn't always in order, and that's because the foundational model's understanding of CVEs, which it exists there, it will have a different take on it. It's not just, you know, linear. So, what do the clients think? Well, from my perspective, the best one was at the start, was the no evidence of hallucinations. That was probably what I was most concerned about, and directed everything to be quite conservative here from that perspective. Really interesting feedback. When you add, so we were just putting the vulnerabilities, but then we realized when we added other things like the states of the vulnerabilities, whether something is risk assessed or not, that kind of stuff, that gave back better data. So by adding more metadata about the vulnerabilities, we get better results. The training recommendations were a bit unrealistic at times. It went down the rabbit hole of teaching developers how to create ciphers and stuff. That wasn't needed. They just needed to know how to use the encryption mechanisms. But it was interesting that, you know, humans interacting with it could tell that straight away. But most of the feedback really was more about add more questions, make it dynamic, configure the questions. So there's a lot of engineering going into that side of it now. We think that bit is, the AI bit is good, and now we're engineering the UX of it and how to use it better. This is just a quick high-level overview of how it all works. So at the top there, per organization, you turn it on as an organization. Our middleware goes and grabs the vulnerabilities. It grabs the insight templates that we've created, merges those together. Our solution is run through Anthropic's Claude, and that's sitting on top of AWS Bedrock. It gives you back the results. We then have, again, a middleware component that converts those results into what you see. And then from a user perspective, if you have this feature turned on and you have accessibility to this, you get to go in it and see what's going on there. So it's pretty, at this level, pretty straightforward. So then finally, and Sarah will be happy with this, where to next? And this obviously is also AI generated. That is AI's visual impression of itself pushing itself. So I don't know if that's tears coming out of the eyes or what, sweat. So what next? I'm looking at the future in terms of technical challenges. So these ones here, evolution of AI insights, we think they're relatively straightforward adaptation of what we've already done, similar in scale. Asset configuration, we think our clients can have a co-pilot to tell them how to configure their assets to be more efficient and get better results. License management, same, how our clients can use their licenses more efficiently. Client assessment is a bit of an extension of the earlier one I spoke about, where we can make it easier for our SEs to manage clients. The next level up, AI for prediction. This is a little bit more dangerous because we could use it as a co-pilot, but really what we get in our game is blockers come in on scanning is blocked for myriad reasons, and folks have to fix that. We could use this as a co-pilot, but ideally you get ahead of that and warn people that we expect blockers for these reasons. The next step up then is a GPT dialogue. as in a chat GPT across all your results, and that's where you start to get into a size and a scale and a cost metric problem. And then finally, the advanced stuff. So we have a huge vulnerability data lake in Edgescan, going back over a decade. There's huge value in there, but obviously in all this LLM, Gen AI stuff, there's potentially huge cost as well. So I don't really know what the next steps on that are as of yet. But that's it. That's where we sit to date. I'll be out there all day if anybody wants to come and talk about it. And
don't leave.
oh,
Not yet. Thank you for bringing us back in on time. Which means I've now got a couple of minutes to kill. So I'm going to ask you a question. We don't have time for audience questions, but Edgescan are going to be in the exhibitor hall. So my question is something we touched on this morning, which is how a lot of the threat actors are using AI to amplify their attacks. So as part of your kind of future focus, are you able to identify any of that kind of AI sort of led attacks that are coming from threat actors? Are you kind of thinking about that?
yeah, we're thinking about it. And in the vulnerability management space, we're not seeing it. You know, we hear about it, but we're not seeing it. But I think that would probably be more visible in other layers than where we are. But yeah, it's something, again, that I'm being asked about. And how do we then mimic that? And how do we find vulnerabilities as if coming from Gen AI? So yeah, that's something else my CEO asks me about as well regularly.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be I can imagine when we come back here, either back in November or even next year, we're going to be having a lot of focused talks about how the AI is being amplified by the attackers, but also by the defenders, that kind of next level of cybersecurity. So Brian, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It's been a pleasure.